70s, 80s, 90s.
The Jiggy Jaguar.
We are live today here on the world-famous Jiggy Jaguar Show, and I want to thank everybody for joining us today here on the big broadcast. You can email us. It's jiggyjaguar@jiggyjaguar.com. And if you want to find us on Twitter, it's at JIGGYJAGUAR. And we've got an incredible list of guests today here on the big broadcast. And without further ado, I welcome to the broadcast Dr. Annabelle R. Sherbet. She is the author of A Life Lived Ridiculously, a novel about when a girl with obsessive compulsive disorder falls in love with a sociopath. Doctor, how are you doing this afternoon?
Doing very well, thank you. How are you?
Pretty good, actually. Now, tell me a little bit about this this incredible novel, my friend. How did you come to write this thing?
I wanted to write a story from the point of view of people with distorted thinking. So I got the girl with OCD because, well, I know a little bit about OCD. I'm also trained as a neuroscientist, so, you know, I've, other than just personal experience, I really understand that condition. And I paired her up with a sociopath because I liked the idea of someone who's in constant mental pain versus somebody who feels nothing at all. So that was what drove it.
Well, tell me about the writing process. What was it like from beginning to end for you?
The writing process was a lot of fun, actually. Coming up with the story, obviously drawing from certain personal experiences and making it way more interesting, adding twists and turns. No, the writing process was actually a lot of fun.
Talking today with a great guest here on the big broadcast. We've got Dr. Annabelle Sherbet with us today. She has got this incredible book out. It is called... This is great. A Life Lived Ridiculously, a novel about when a girl with obsessive compulsive disorder falls in love with a sociopath. Now, tell us a little bit about how to date someone with OCD. Give me some details there, my friend.
Right. Well, so people with OCD, I mean, they're just regular people. They just happen to have a few additional worries going round and round in their brains. So I did come up with some tips. Obviously, the first thing is never say, you know, why can't you just snap out of it? Because the answer is that they can't snap out of it any more than a diabetic can snap out of being unable to produce insulin. So OCD is a biological condition of the brain, and it needs to be understood as such. So that's the absolute first golden rule of dating someone with OCD, is respect their condition. And the second one is listen to them. This is your loved one, because OCD can actually be hard to put into words sometimes. Sometimes words can fall short of illustrating the true depths of the pain that's actually experienced. You know, when somebody says to you, I mean, we'll take a really typical example, like that someone who washes their hands all the time, if they say, oh, you know, I can't stop washing my hands because I feel that they're contaminated all the time, those words, they just do not really do justice to how agonizing and intrusive those thoughts of contamination are. So the key is to really listen to your loved one and give them the impression that you get it. The other one is, for the same reasons, inform yourself. Now you can just go on the web, and there's so much information out there. It's just unreal. It's such a great time to be alive and having OCD, because everybody can inform themselves. You're no longer in the dark, suffering alone. So yes, if you're dating someone with OCD, make yourself informed. The next one is that if your partner's OCD is under control, if they're taking medication, never ask them to come off their medication or stop their therapy or stop what they're doing just because they seem fine now. The reason they seem fine now is because everything that they're doing is working. You know, once again, OCD is a biological disorder of the brain. So if medication is keeping your partner in a good place, and they're able to manage their symptoms and lead a normal life, then it's great. They need to stay on it. Obviously, if their symptoms are not under control, then and they're under a lot of distress and they can barely function, then I'd say certainly encourage them to get help, remind them it's not their fault, that they're unwell. Again, as you will be an informed partner, you'll be in a position to remind them of that, and offer to attend therapy with them and help them with outward exposure exercises, anything that helps, just to be supportive. And finally, just accept them as they are. Nobody's perfect. So we all have something, whether, that your partner has OCD, but you yourself will probably have something else that nags you. So, accept them as they are. You fell in love with them as a whole package, and that included their anxiety. So the more you accept them, the more they'll be able to trust you, and you can develop a deeper bond. So that's pretty much, I'm sure there's a lot more advice out there, but that's sort of the large advice.
10 minutes after the hour, you're listening to the world-famous Jiggy Jaguar Show. We've got Dr. Annabelle R. Sherbet with us today, author of A Life Lived Ridiculously. It's a novel about when a girl with obsessive compulsive disorder falls in love with a sociopath. Now, we're talking about how to date someone who has OCD. Now, you mentioned earlier, never say, why can't you just snap out of it? The answer is no, they can't snap out of it. Give us a little bit more details on this.
Well, I mean, so when you are experiencing OCD or often a person would be experiencing intrusive thoughts, and the thoughts, they don't invite the thoughts, they don't want the thoughts. The thoughts come to them perhaps like somebody who has a song that goes round and round in their head and they're frustrated, they can't get rid of it. But with OCD, it's thoughts that are about whether it's contamination or magical thinking, like, oh, if I don't do this, then my whole family's going to die, or and these thoughts come to them, and it's hard to stop the thoughts. And again, it's all a biological reason concerning the error mechanisms in the brain, actually, which are just overactive. So they're constantly signaling, giving you the impression that that something needs to be fixed, something's wrong and needs to be fixed. And so that's why it is hard for a person with OCD to control the thoughts and to make them go away, because it's really, the root of it is rooted in these areas of your brain. So yes, I mean, telling them to snap out of it's not going to do any good.
Talking with Dr. Annabelle R. Sherbet with us today. She's the author of A Life Lived Ridiculously. The topic, we're talking about how to date someone who has OCD. Now, you mentioned, listen to your loved one. Talking about OCD can be hard because words often fall short of illustrating the true depth of pain and anxiety experienced by the sufferer. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, I think with any mental illness, it can be said that the words we possess, it can be very hard. People don't live inside your head, unfortunately. It would be nice sometimes if they did, because then they could really feel what you feel. And so the only way you have to illustrate to them how you feel is using words. And words can be so inadequate. It doesn't matter how well-read and educated you are, it's just that words can just fail to really illustrate the anguish, the isolation, the all-consuming fear that comes with most mental illnesses, including OCD. And that's why I would say, listen to your loved one and inform yourself, so that when your loved one is telling you about this, you really, your response is the response of someone who totally understands it, who totally gets it. And it will make them feel so much less alone and less frustrated, because there is nothing worse than sharing your deepest, darkest, horrible secret, and then you hear yourself saying it, and it just doesn't sound important when you say it the way it feels inside your head.
We've got Dr. Annabelle Sherbert with us today here on the big broadcast. She has got a great book out. It's called Author of a Life Lived Ridiculously, a novel about when a girl with obsessive compulsive disorder falls in love with a sociopath. Now, we're talking a little bit about how to date someone who has OCD. You mentioned inform yourself for the reasons we talked a little bit about earlier. Go online, get books, learn what it really means to be nagged by intrusive thoughts. Tell me a little bit more about that, my friend.
Well, there's some good books out there about OCD. What's great is if you go online now to any of the online bookstores, you'll find a lot of memoirs. Some are written with humor. If you enjoy like humorous memoirs about OCD, you can always get Jennifer Traig's Devil in the Details. Then there are obviously the more sort of seriously written ones. There's Passing for Normal. I'm trying to remember. Triggered. There's a number of them. There are a lot of memoirs out there of people really describing what they've gone through. So that's one way to read about it. Obviously, if you're more of a scientific bent and you really want to get to the nuts and bolts of it, then you can read Brain Lock and The Mind and the Brain by Jeffrey Schwartz, and that's much more scientific, and it talks about OCD. So there's a lot out there, and then obviously there's the internet. You can go to like Psych Central, which is a good website for all psychology-related questions, and OCD is covered by them. And there are so many websites actually out there that will talk to you about OCD, and they all, the good ones will all say pretty much the same thing. They'll tell you what obsessions are, compulsions, how they affect the sufferer. So there is a lot out there. There's no reason to be in the dark.
Speaking with a great guest today about her incredible book, we're talking to Dr. Annabelle R. Sherbert today. She's got a great novel out. It's called A Life Lived Ridiculously, and the topic is how to date someone who has OCD. As we wrap up here, my friend, if your partner's OCD is not under control, if they are just causing distress, disruption in their life, all these different things, how can we deal with that?
Well, I think the best thing is to encourage them to get help. And you are going to be with them. It's not their fault. They're unwell, and they need help. They can't do it alone. You can offer to do therapy together. You can offer to help them out with exercises, remind them to take their medications. Basically really be there for them, but obviously, don't pander to them, because if they're not getting help, then it's not fair on them or you. They need to at least try to get help, and there is help to be had out there. They can try therapies, medication, and see what works, see what does it. But OCD, it's just not one of those illnesses where you can go, oh, I haven't got willpower, I'll just do it with willpower, because I'm sure that there's always going to be somebody out there who claim they did it with willpower, but most people will tell you that they need help.
Well, I appreciate you making time for us today. Dr. Annabelle R. Sherbert was today, author of A Life Lived Ridiculously. It's a novel about when a girl with obsessive compulsive disorder falls in love with a sociopath, and our topic has been how to date someone who has OCD. My friend, I really do appreciate you being on. This was an incredible interview. Thank you very much, my friend.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on the show.
Definitely. Well, we'll talk to you soon, and enjoyed reading about the book, and enjoyed learning about you, my friend. So thanks for doing this.
Thank you.
Definitely.
Thank you very much.
Have a good one.